Ibrahim Traoré was about to board the plane when he read the message on his phone. French visa denied. This insult would become the beginning of a new African unity. The presidential motorcade had just arrived at Wagadugu International Airport. Under the harsh West African sun, military personnel stood at attention, their uniforms crisp despite the humid heat. Officials from various ministries had gathered on the tarmac, a sea of formal attire and expectant faces. The red carpet stretched from the motorcade to the stairs of the presidential aircraft, a symbol of diplomatic protocol that had been meticulously prepared for this significant occasion. This trip had been planned for months, Traoré's first official visit to Paris as Burkina Faso's president. The agenda included meetings with the French president, economic ministers, and business leaders. At stake were crucial negotiations about resource contracts, security cooperation, and developmental aid. For a country still navigating the complex legacy of colonial rule, such high-level diplomatic engagement was vital, if delicate. Traoré stepped out of his vehicle, acknowledging the salutes with the measured composure that had become his trademark. At 34, he was among Africa's youngest leaders, having risen to power through a commitment to national sovereignty that resonated deeply with a population tired of foreign influence masquerading as partnership. His foreign minister, Amadou Ouedraogo, approached immediately, his normally impassive diplomatic face betraying unusual tension. He held out his phone. "Mr. President, there's a situation," he said quietly, ensuring his words wouldn't carry to the assembled dignitaries. Traoré took the device, scanning the email displayed on the screen. The message from the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs was brief and coldly formal. The French Republic regrets to inform that the visa request for Ibrahim Traoré has been denied under Article 32 of the Visa Code on grounds of national security. The scheduled meetings with French officials are hereby cancelled. Traoré read the message twice, his expression unchanged.
Asterisk, it's all here. The northern trip is in 3 days as usual with minimal protection. Asterisk, the weapons? Ask the third man. Asterisk, ready in the depot, said the captain. Special weapons. They leave no trace. Our man in France delivered everything he promised. Asterisk A. Brief smile appeared on the face of the tallest man. Asterisk, and the money? Deposited in the Swiss account? Asterisk, the remaining amount will be transferred upon success. Also, visa changes and new identities are ready for our families. If we fail, our flights to Paris will be arranged. Asterisk, the tall man nodded, checking around. Sharply. Asterisk, good. We will finally end this adventure. This Traoré, who does he think he is? His face contorted with deep anger. Asterisk, to stand against the West, to expel oil and mining companies vital to our economy that was signing his own death warrant. Asterisk, at that moment, the quietest member of the group, a man named Major Connate, finally spoke. Asterisk, do you think they will trust us? Will the West keep its word? The others looked at him, a moment of discomfort causing silence. What do you mean, Connate? The captain asked harshly. You're overthinking. Asterisk, I'm just asking, said Connate, keeping his voice even. Westerners don't always keep their promises. They need us, but afterwards, Traoré outplayed them. How do we know they won't do the same to us? Asterisk, the tall man stepped closer. Now Connate's face was illuminated by the pale light of the street lamp. Asterisk, if you have doubts, Major, now is the time to speak. Beyond this point, there's no turning back. Connate met his gaze for a moment, then nodded. No doubts, Colonel. Just considering all possibility. Before the group dispersed, the colonel looked around one last time. 3 days. Everyone knows their positions. Communication only through the secure channel. Afterwards, we'll say hello to a new Burkina Faso. None of them were aware of the eyes watching them. None of them knew that Major Connate, immediately after leaving, excitedly turned off a small voice recorder as he walked down the street, then calmly sent a short message, bird in cage. Recording complete. A few kilometers away, Ibrahim. Traoré was alone in his room at military headquarters, surrounded by reports on his desk. He was looking at a map with a determined expression. A knock at the door distracted his attention. "Enter," he said, his tone still thoughtful. A woman in civilian clothes entered, in her 40s, with a professional appearance that was in no way remarkable, but her eyes were sharp, the kind that could assess a room in seconds. Mr. President, she said, bowing. Word from Conate. He got the recordings? Traoré rose from the desk, lifting his weight from his chair. The entire conversation? Yes, sir. He's on his way now. Also, our informant in Paris has sent more names. Western banks financing the plot. A list of connected diplomats. Even a list of those who would be given positions in the cabinet after a successful coup. Did we record that, everything? Mr. President, this is exactly the kind of evidence we want to expose. Not just a local conspiracy. This is an international effort with links going directly to the Alza Palace and the White House. Traoré rubbed his face, signs of fatigue visible. Under his eyes, they've overstepped this time, Aisha. They may want to push me aside, even kill me. I expected that. But to hire my own soldiers to betray their own people? This is a declaration of war. Aisha nodded, her hands clasped behind her back. What are your orders, Mr. President? Traoré walked to the window, observing the nightlights of Wagadugu. He loved this city. He loved these people, including those ready to die for him and those willing to stab him in the back. Continue monitoring them. Record every word. But do nothing until then, he said finally. Sir. Aisha's gaze hardened. But we know they'll move in 3 days. Wouldn't it be safer to arrest them all now? A dark determination appeared in the president's eyes. If we just arrest a few traitorous soldiers, their foreign backers will deny everything. It will be framed as internal problems. No, he said with a determined voice. We need evidence. We'll wait for them to move, then we'll shock the world. 3 days later, it was a moonless night, well past midnight, and the military barracks had fallen into an unusual silence. A group of soldiers, about 15 of them, had been positioned at key locations. Their communication devices were set to a secure channel, or what they thought was a secure channel. Deep in the corridors, Colonel Diarra was giving verbal instruction. The mission is simple. Stop Traoré's convoy. Grab him. Quick, quiet, effective. Vehicles are ready, as are the terrorist outfits and flags. The world will think the president of Burkina Faso was killed by an Islamist terrorist organization. The captain nervously checked his watch. Do we know exactly when the convoy will arrive? Before dawn, around 4:30, Diarra said sternly. No one, I repeat, no one will move before the agreed time. Conate, outwardly calm but inwardly boiling, stood in the corner of the room. His phone was relaying every word to Traoré's special intelligence unit. Just then, a loud noise was heard. Doors opening, shouting, the sound of running boots. What is this? Shouted the colonel, reaching for his weapon. The doors suddenly opened. A fully equipped tactical team quickly rushed into the room. Weapons were raised. No one fired. Everything proceeded with sharp professionalism, fast and precise. Stay where you are. Drop your weapons now. The captain began to draw his weapon. Conate moved quickly, lunging toward the captain to block his arm. Asterisk. Don't. He hissed. You'll get us. All killed. The colonel shouted in shock, What does this mean? Who are you? Asterisk. At that moment, Aisha stepped forward from among the crowd, now with the authoritative stance of an intelligence chief. Asterisk. Colonel Marcel Diarra, we are arresting you for treason, conspiracy to assassinate, and working for foreign powers. Asterisk. Similar scenes were playing out in every corner of the barracks. One by one, the conspirators were captured. Most surrendered in surprise. A few resisted, quickly subdued. Some were caught with cash in their bags, others with foreign-made devices, encrypted phones, and weapons. Aisha looked at Kounate. Good job, Major. Your country is grateful. The colonel, chin dripping with saliva, pure anger and shock in his eyes, looked at Kounate. You are a traitor. You sold us out. Kounate calmly shook his head. No, Colonel. You're the one who betrayed. I stayed loyal to what I promised. My homeland and my people. Asterisk. Within an hour, the situation was almost completely contained. 17 traitors had been arrested. Hundreds of pieces of evidence collected. And something unexpected happened. One began to confess. Asterisk. The captain, in the interrogation room, was in tears. Asterisk. I'll tell you everything, but you must promise to protect me. I assure you I was just following orders. Asterisk. Whose orders? Aisha. Asked sternly. Asterisk. The colonel's at first. But then there were foreign agents. Don't you see? This is big. They said they just needed men to pull the trigger. They made the plan. They provided the money, the training. They gave the training. Aisha leaned forward, calm but dangerous. Who are they? I want names, dates, meetings, every phone call you made. 30 minutes later, when Aisha entered, Traoré was sitting in the presidential palace. How bad is it? He asked directly. A tired expression on his face. Asterisk. Worse than we expected, sir. Not just a group of agents, a coordinated effort. 3 Western intelligence services directly involved. We can trace the leads to Europe, North America, and surprisingly, some African capitals. Traoré nodded, thinking for a moment. Is the evidence secure? Asterisk. Absolutely. Audio, video, email, bank transfer. All arrests and recordings were videotaped. No process forcing, no human rights violation. The world will see. Asterisk. What about the prisoner's safety? Asterisk. Full protection. They won't suffer suicide or harm from others. We've placed them all in camera-monitored cells. Only our trusted men are providing security. Traoré looked at a stack of papers on his desk. How many are cooperating? Asterisk. 6 have already confessed. They're telling everything. It's shocking to see what the Westerners promised them. Luxury homes in France, accounts in Swiss banks, guaranteed visas for their families, and educational opportunities at U.S. universities. Asterisk. Traoré sighed. Not crushed under the weight, but certainly feeling it. Asterisk. We were very lucky, Aisha. Without Kounate, it would have happened. Aisha said with firm belief, Your people love you, Mr. President. Someone will always remain loyal. Asterisk. And what should we do now? Asked Traoré. Asterisk. Should we handle it as a local matter, allow the Western media to invent an internal conflict story and brush it under the rug? A cold fire burned in Aisha's eyes. No, sir. We should go all the way. They played games with us. Let's not allow them to deny the West's role. The Westerners always dream when they want a coup in Africa, they usually get it. This time, let's show them they're wrong. Traoré looked at her with questioning eyes for the first time. Are you suggesting a demonstration? Aisha. Yes, Mr. President, in front of the whole world. With all the evidence, all the names, all the documents, all the betrayals will be revealed. Traoré thought for a moment. The West has power over its media. They will distort the story. They will demonize us instead. Then Aisha said, let's send such a powerful message that they cannot ignore it. The next morning as Wagadugu awoke at dawn, phones began to ring. The first messages began circulating on social media. Something so big had happened, no one was sure of the source. Throughout the country, everyone was asking the same question. What happened? Is Traoré safe? Has the coup been completed? One of Traoré's closest advisors announced that an important statement would be made. The media and public were asked to gather at Independence Square. People began arriving early in growing crowds, uncertain what to expect. At 10 o'clock, an unexpected sight appeared. Trucks, military trucks, passed by the edge of the square. Soon, more came, filled with armed guards. People looked at each other anxiously. Some began to back away in fear. Was this a coup? A crackdown on demonstrations? Then whispers began to circulate. Look, soldiers, said a woman, pointing. Men in camouflage uniforms, weapons in hand, began disembarking from the backs of the trucks. But this time, there was something different. These men weren't moving freely. They had handcuffs. A deep intake of breath rose from the crowd. The first traitor, head bowed, was carefully directed by guards toward the center of the square. Then another. Then another. Within 15 minutes, 17 men were kneeling, handcuffed, in front of a platform at the center of the square. Most had high-rank insignia and medals on their uniforms glinting in the sunlight. Colonel Diarra was right in the middle, his face contorted, with a mixture of shock and anger. As the crowd grew, whispers began to echo. Traitors. Coup plotters. Where is the president? Is Traoré alive? Just then, another group appeared on the platform, high-ranking officers, civilian leaders from across the country, and most importantly, right in their midst, solid and upright, Ibrahim Traoré. An instinctive applause broke out around him. Then more came, growing in waves, echoing across Independence Square. People were jumping, shouting, crying. Traoré raised a calm hand, accepting the greeting but stopping further applause. When silence was secured across the square, he began to speak. His voice was strong, firm, and cool. People of Burkina Faso, he began, we are here to tell you a truth. Last night, our brave security forces thwarted a plot that would have destroyed our country, stolen our independence, and crushed your will. Beside the platform, a large screen lit up, showing images of documents, photographs, and footage of the events. Evidence. These men, said Traoré, pointing towards the handcuffed traitors, were bought. They were paid to plot against their own people by countries we were expected to see as friends. On the screen, it was now undeniable. Photos of meetings with Western diplomats, bank transfers, weapons deliveries, transcripts of audio recordings, even encrypted instructions sent by French and American intelligence services. Traoré's voice rose now, with a power that came not from anger but from determination. Today you will ask us, what was wrong with us? What was wrong with us? Why did they try to turn our own soldiers, our own brothers, against us? A silence fell across the square so deep you could hear a pin drop. The answer is simple, because we said no, because we wanted control over our resources. Because we wanted a real future for our people. Because we wanted the right to choose our own path on our own soil. On the large screen beside the platform, graphics appeared showing how French and American companies had exploited Burkina Faso, taking resources for decades and leaving little in return. Colonial powers took our oil, our gold, our uranium, said Traoré. What did they give in return? Corruption, dependency, and if our people dared to resist, to say no, this. He pointed again at the handcuffed men. As the crowd's anger grew, Traoré did something surprising. He raised his hand, a gesture of calm. But today, we will be different. We will be better. These men, he said again, pointing toward the handcuffed traitors. Will stand trial for their crimes of treason, fairly, legally, in front of the media, because we are not savages. We are not a country of excessive. Never open to manipulation and never, ever open to plots against our own people. The crowd began to shout wildly, the energy becoming palpable. Members of the press filmed what was happening in shock, some concerned, some admiring. And today, I have a message to all my African brothers and sisters, said Traoré, raising his voice. In Mali, in Niger, in Congo, in Ghana, in Angola, across the continent. If you resist, they will come for you too. But we will not be afraid. We will not kneel. We were colonized once. Never again. Never. The last word echoed across the square like a cry and a directive. The crowd went wild, people waving flags, clapping, crying. Traoré or Acute spoke for a few more minutes, stating that the evidence would be submitted to all international organizations. Trials would be conducted with full transparency. Then, as he finished, his voice lowered and the crowd quieted to hear him. Youth of Burkina Faso, he said, now addressing directly the thousands of young people before him. I have a message for you. Remember what you saw today. Remember how foreign powers fear our strength. We don't need to hate them, but we certainly must understand them. The rich countries of the North fear us expressing our own will, your will, on our soil. This is your power. Never forget it. Then he stepped back, shaking hands with the others on the platform, and afterward cast a cold look at the handcuffed traitors. As the crowd filled the square with cries for justice and honor. The traitors were taken away, now handcuffed not just in their hands, but in the gaze of all Africa and the judgment of world history. In the days that followed, the reverberations of Traoré's speech traveled around the world. Western media initially tried to censor the events, or at least minimize them. Some tried to label Traoré as paranoid or a dictator, but they couldn't ignore the evidence. The bank transfers were real. The audio recordings were undeniable. The weapons were real. The signatures on the documents were real. The French government gave an initial response, saying it would not comment on local matters, but soon recalled its ambassador from Burkina Faso, citing confidentiality reasons. A spokesman for the U.S. State Department made a simple statement. The allegations are serious and will be investigated, but we will not comment further at this time. But in Africa, the reaction was immediate and electrifying. In Mali, thousands of young people poured into the streets of Bamako, shouting, we are Traoré too. In Niger, an unexpected proposal was submitted to the National Assembly, the Sovereignty and Transparency Act, inspired by similar laws in Burkina Faso, requiring public scrutiny of all foreign military presence and economic agreements. In Ghana, university students organized new Africa conferences on their campuses, showing footage of Traoré's speech and calling for stronger borders against foreign intervention. This was one of Traoré's goals, not just to stop an assassination attempt, but to awaken the continent's collective consciousness, to show that Western powers were still trying to control Africa's leaders, to rule the people as they wished, and perhaps most importantly, to show that this power could be denied, resisted, and defeated. Back in Wagadugu, Traoré was not yet in a celebratory mood. Before the ink of victory was dry, new challenges had begun. Economic sanctions were threatened. Foreign companies threatened to leave. French media suggested declaring Burkina Faso a hostile state. One evening, in the meeting room at military headquarters, Traoré met with his national security team. Around the table sat loyal officers, economic advisors, and intelligence leaders, including Aisha. Tell me the situation, said Traoré. Calm and focused, but the lines of tension on his face becoming more pronounced. The Minister of Economy leaned forward, frowning. Mr. President, to be honest, the financial pressure is increasing. French companies have begun closing their operations. The IMF is refusing to restructure our debts, and some international banks are threatening to freeze our accounts. As expected, said Traoré. What about the military front? The defense minister nodded. The French are intensifying at the Niger border. They're conducting regular military exercises. They haven't tried to return to their old bases, but they're trying to reactivate their intelligence network. Aisha laughed out loud. Good luck. We've cleaned out most of their intelligence networks. If they try to build a new one, we'll know. Traoré, looking out through the tall windows, realized that what he had expected was beginning. The West might expect some kind of reckoning, but not like this. The evidence clearly, publicly, openly displayed to the world. The West would retaliate with every financial and military tool. That's how the game was always played. Punish those who resist. Break those who won't bend. But this time, he was prepared for this game. What about our friends in other African countries? What are the responses? He asked the foreign minister. The minister smiled, perhaps the first genuine smile at the meeting. Incredible. Mr. President, the president of Angola has sent a special message saying he will give his full support. Senegal is suggesting a possible trade agreement. And more surprisingly, South Africa is proposing to invest part of their international reserves in Burkina Faso bonds. This will neutralize some of the Western sanctions. Traoré's eyes widened. He had been hopeful, but this response was unexpectedly powerful. Perhaps this was the spirit of the times. The time had finally come for Africa to be the master of its own destiny. Then what should our next steps be? He asked the room. Aisha thoughtfully leaned forward. The West will try to demonize us, especially about the condition of the prisoners. We should make these treason trials completely transparent. Invite international observers. Show that our justice has a higher standard than our former colonizer. I agree, said Traoré. And economically? The Minister of Economy suggested. A smart strategy. If Western companies withdraw, we should be ready to find other buyers. Our gold, uranium, cotton, mangoes, we are already looking for markets to sell them. Now is the time to open up more to East Asia, Russia, even Latin America. Together with the African countries that want to help us, we can form a kind of economic protection network. The meeting continued late into the night. Each minister and advisor discussed the challenges they faced, suggested solutions, and developed strategies to withstand Western pressure. Traoré listened to them all, asked questions, sometimes approved, sometimes suggested alternatives. When midnight had passed, the meeting finally ended. As the other members of the team departed, Traoré and Aisha remained behind. They sat in silence for a while, digesting the day's events. Asterisk. There are many dangerous days ahead. Traoré said finally. Aisha nodded. Yes, but the important thing is this. People know they can no longer be fooled. Even if one day we cannot help ourselves, others will know what happened and continue the struggle. Asterisk. Just then, Traoré's phone rang. The caller was a young person from the communications team. Asterisk. Mr. President, he said, his voice trembling with excitement. You should see social media. The whole world is seeing it. Slogans, hashtags, they're everywhere. Asterisk. Aisha opened her phone and checked Twitter. Her eyes widened in surprise. There were hashtags that had started in Central Africa and were now spreading worldwide. Asterisk. Hashtag Africa will not bow, #Traorés revolution, hashtag no more coups, economic freedom, but the most powerful hashtag was hashtag I am Traoré acute, a slogan used by people identifying themselves with Traoré, recognizing their own struggles for economic and political sovereignty in Africa and beyond. Asterisk. It's working, Aisha said quietly. People understand. Traoré nodded with a genuine smile for the first time. Or maybe they always understood. They just needed someone to say it. Soon after, late at night, Traoré returned to his official residence, a simple bedroom, characterized by an order reflecting military discipline. Beside his bed was a small bookshelf containing books by his father, himself a former soldier, and by Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso's revolutionary leader. Asterisk. On his cell phone, he watched a video shared by a group of young activists. They were in Kenya, standing on the campus of Nairobi University, giving their message to the world. Asterisk. Today we are all Traoré. Today we will all raise our voices. Today, yes, even if we are threatened, yes, even if we face economic sanctions. We will say no to Western powers. Until yesterday, our leaders were assassinated, removed from office, conspired against. But not anymore. Today a new day is dawning. Today we stand up for our own future. Asterisk. Traoré closed the video and lay down on the bed. He felt a heavy fatigue, but also a deep sense of satisfaction. His mind went to those creative moments at the dawn of the failed coup attempt. There had been moments of doubt. How much support would come? Could he convince the other soldiers? Would the people respond? Now he had his answer, and that answer filled his heart with pride. The next day, Traoré left the capital, Wagadugu, for a village visit. This was a small village near Gawa, where he had served in the early days of his career. He had come here to see his people, to sit with them, away from the grand state events, to directly see and feel how people were living. Asterisk. Under the stone school, villagers, teachers, and children gathered to greet him. The school principal, a stoic and professional man, was taking Traoré around the campus. Asterisk. The classrooms were still simple. Wooden benches, old blackboards, torn maps. But Traoré noticed the books on each child's desk. Asterisk. Are these new? He asked. Asterisk. Yes, Mr. President, said the school principal. We received a donation for African history class last year. Every child can have their own book now. Asterisk. The students were carefully watching Traoré's every move. One of the youngest, a girl, perhaps 8 years old, finally put aside her hesitation and asked, Asterisk. Mr. President, we heard the story. They tried to kill you, didn't they? Asterisk. An excited intake of breath was heard in the room. The teacher leaned down to the girl's ear. Asterisk. Amara, be respectful. Asterisk. But Traoré squatted down with a warm smile, now at eye level with the little girl. Asterisk. Yes, I suppose they did, he said simply. But as you can guess, They failed. The girl frowned. Why? Why would someone want to do that? The teacher began to apologize again, but Traoré stopped him with a hand gesture. No, this is a good question. A very important question. He thought for a moment, considering how to present the truth while preserving this innocence. Sometimes people are afraid of the big changes others say they will make, he said finally. Asterisk. In this country, some people want everything to stay the same, especially if it's good for them. Sometimes they take the easy way. They tried to stop a person, to stop the change, but they forget, asterisk, what? Asked the girl, completely focused. Asterisk. A person can be stopped. Ideas cannot be stopped. Dreams cannot be stopped. The coming of time cannot be stopped. The little girl nodded in approval as if this were ancient wisdom. Our teacher tells us that when you plant a seed, it grows. It cannot be stopped, right? Traoré smiled. Absolutely. And most importantly, these seeds, he said, gently touching his forehead. Ideas in the brain, those are the most powerful seeds. Asterisk then, as he was moving toward the sitting room, Traoré extended an arm and noticed an older man sitting, leaning against a wall. He had caught sight of him from the corner of his eye. An old soldier, bone-thin, quite elderly, but still displaying a military bearing. Asterisk. Traoré deviated from his path and turned toward him, extending his hand. Asterisk. Hello. Brother, I am Ibrahim Traoré. Asterisk. The man shook his.